In this video, we're going to be covering how to program joystick buttons, and we'll be using this claw as a reference. So, this is a regular Vex claw that you can buy, or if you made your own claw, you would program it a similar way. This claw only has one motor, so we'll be using that. So in Robot C, the first thing we're going to do is add this new motor. We'll just call it claw motor. Set that to a 393, and we can deal with the reversed or not reversed later, depending on your preferences. Apply. Okay, so we come down. This is the old code that we had for the tank drive. We'll just be adding to it. So this claw can be programmed using the joystick channels, as we did for the arm and the wheels, just using code similar to this right here, where you set the let's compile that really quickly. And you set the claw motor equal to one of the joystick channels for the second controller, probably something different from the actual arm motor. But sometimes the buttons may be more useful or more convenient depending on the driver. So in order to program using the buttons, you will use this structure called an if structure. Okay, so here's an if structure. The way this works is that you have a condition, right? And this is called a Boolean condition. One second. And this Boolean condition is simply a true or false statement. For example, if you're programming a sensor for a car, using the light sensor or something, you can say if it's dark outside, right? This would be a condition. So like if it's dark, and you would have a response within the curly braces. For instance, if it's dark outside, turn on the headlights, right? For a car. So, for programming the claw, or just buttons in general, we use a very similar logic. So, if the button is pressed, which is your condition, the response will be to set the motors to a specific power level. Now, the reason we have three branches is because there are three conditions that the claw can really be in at any time, right? So we have open the claw, close the claw, or have no movement. And this last step of having no movement is kind of crucial to programming motors in Robot C, because in Robot C, motors will continuously run at the last command given to it. For example, if you were to set the power levels equal to, let's say, 75, it will continuously run the motors at 75 until you set them back to 0. So keep this in mind for programming, as it'll become very important. So when we're programming this claw, we'll say if button 1 is pressed, then let's say close the claw. Else if button 2 is pressed, open the claw. Else have no movement in the claw. And the way we do this is by just saying vex rt, let's see, button, if vex rt button, and here are the buttons for Robot C. The way you call them is by saying the number, and then rather U or D for up and down, or L or R for left or right. Personally, I feel it's more convenient to use these buttons up here, the trigger buttons, on the front, because they're easily reachable. So 6U and 6D. So if button 6 up is pressed, and the way we signify a pressed button is by setting it equal to 1 or true. So 1 or true means the button is pressed, and 0 or false means the button is not pressed. So if the button is pressed, then we want to set the claw motor equal to a certain power level, let's say 80. So remember, the power levels for the claw range from -127 to +127. So a power level of 80 is it's moderate. And the next branch is else. If the controller is set to 6D, which is the bottom one, so the top one will open it and the bottom one will close it. Alright, so if that's set to 1, meaning it's pressed, then the motor, the claw motor, will be set to just the opposite, which will just reverse the motor and close the claw, 80. Else, and here's the very important part, else if the first branch is false and the second branch is false, meaning that you haven't pressed 6 up or you haven't pressed 6 down, then you want to set the motor equal to 0, meaning that you want no movement. And this will ensure that your motor isn't moving when you don't want it to. And so with this very simple if branch, we can program the claw using buttons, and you can map these buttons 6U, 6D to any other options that you want. If you wanted 5, or if you wanted 7 or 8, those options are completely up to your driver. And just like that, we have all the code required to run a very simple robot with the wheels, with an arm, and with a claw. Thank you.